All right, welcome to Masterclass number 2 by Sales Boomerang and Mortgage Coach. I have done literally thousands of interviews, but there's nothing I've enjoyed more than these Masterclass series. This is the second one we've done. I love it for a couple of reasons. One, I've got Alex, the Chief Visionary of Mortgage Coach and Sales Boomerang. What's up, Alex?
What's going on? Here, let me not, I don't want to waste my energy waving. Let me do this. There we go. Hi, everyone.
I love Alex because he's too fun, he's too innovative, and one of the co-founders of Sales Boomerang, one of the greatest gifts to the mortgage industry I've ever seen. I think the two greatest gifts are Mortgage Coach and Sales Boomerang, and we're excited to showcase amazing loan officers. So we've got Keith Collins with us for number 2. What's up, Mr. Collins?
Hey guys, how you doing?
We're doing good. So Keith, I asked you to do this because when I thought of all the interviews I've done over a long period of time, where it was like, how do you use Mortgage Coach? I remember you did a great job from a team building and a leadership standpoint. Like you have a team member that's actually creating your total cost analysis. And I thought it was super smart and scalable the way you do it. I love the way you're scaling with video. You know, you're using the Mortgage Coach video, and then you're creating a lot of really cool shows. We're doing that. And then you've mentored a lot of people. So before I have you introduce your 2 students, you know, just showcase what you're going to share today. And then I've got something to talk about in terms of the first one that we did.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think right now, you know, we're in a very interesting place in the market where it's really difficult. It's really difficult. Definitely compared over the last 2 years, but at the same time, we have probably the most opportunity in front of us that maybe I've ever seen in my career. And it's creating kind of this conundrum in the market where it makes it very difficult for us to figure out, like, what do we need to be doing on a regular basis? Because often what we're doing just feels like busy work. And I think that there's, you know, an opportunity right now for us to focus on a few things as originators to get ready for that next opportunity and get ready to take a bunch of market share. And so that's what I wanted to focus on a bit today.
Got it, guys. So in just a minute, we're going to have Keith Collins go through 3 things that he thinks you need to do to win in this market and gain market share. Before we do that, I want to share just a little piece of micro content from from number 1, the first micro class that we did with Socia Vela. So check this out.
Can I jump in on that real quick?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, like Sosi's class here honestly almost intimidated me when you called me and said, "Hey, dude, I want you to be number 2 in this." I'm like, Dave, like I don't think I can add any more value to what Sosi did. So what you're about to play, dude, like I really think that, you know, any originator right now needs to watch this and watch it multiple times. His scripting, his process, the way that he kind of elevates himself above the competition is some of the best that I've seen. I think it's one of the best. It's one of the best masterclass or best interviews that you've done that I've seen. And so, yeah, man, I think everybody needs to see this thing.
Yeah, well, thank you. And I think the format is super interesting, but let's just watch just a 1-minute clip and then we'll start today's show. And we will put a link to this. So whether you're watching this live or you're watching the recording in YouTube, Facebook, there will be a link to this. It is a must-watch interview. Check it out.
This is the whole cornerstone of our presentation. It's the advice and strategy. Right? It's knowing that 44% of Americans regret their real estate decision within 2 to 3 years. It's knowing that 83% of the average American's net worth in retirement is coming from their home equity. It's knowing this factor that you are going to have an opportunity to be a member of change in somebody's life where their life is never going to be the same after they've acquired this amount of debt and this asset. Right? That is where we're at. And so your TCA is going to be a beautiful tool to be able to help you now show clarity to the client from the stuff you know in a really palatable manner so they can walk away with what they need to make a good decision. So advice and strategy, we're going to go into that a little bit at the later end of the call. I'm going to show you guys an actual TCA. We'll go through it. But for just the concept of setting the stage with your clients as you're influencing them, giving them information so they can change their perspective, this is the way we do it. We set it up with the actual purpose of the consult. We then go into the details of why this consultation is going to change their perspective on everything they know.
So guys, that is a masterclass where he gets into details on how to deliver amazing advice and how to create clients for life and optimize all the referrals from your clients. So Keith, with that said, well, actually, let's see, Alex, anything else you want to say to frame this before we bring our teacher number 2 on stage and let him rock?
No, this is going to be fantastic. This is going to inform everyone on what we covered already. But just watch, listen, have your notes ready to go or ready to take these notes, because there's so much more that we're going to cover today, and we're going to get into more detail, and we're going to uncover more things about intelligence. So just stay tuned, pay attention here. Invite as many people as you can if you think they need to hear this too. Get them, send them that link, and have them come. I'm ready to rock and roll.
All right, let's go. I'm going to jump off stage. Keith, take it away. When you see Alex and I turn on our cameras, it means we've got a comment to make or a question to ask. Let's roll.
Cool, man. All right, I want to first just introduce the 2 people that I have with me here, and then just kind of frame it up a little bit, and then jump into this. So first, we got Becky. And Becky, if you can see Becky, look at this beautiful smile from Becky. Becky is an absolute light in the mortgage space. Becky's worked with us and me for years. These are both independent loan officers that run their own business. We do work together within the same branch, and it's been an absolute pleasure to work with Becky. She's a light. And what is really cool about really both of them, and I'll introduce Mark here in a second, but really is I said this earlier, the stratospheric growth that they've had in the last few years has been amazing. I've got people in the market coming to me asking me, like, what is Becky doing? How has she gone from here to here so quickly? And so I'm really excited to have her on this call. And then we've got Mark. Mark's been with me probably the longest of any originator that I've been working with. He's my partner in a lot of things. We're developing some stuff together, and his growth is really on that same path. And I know it because it's one of those things I'm honestly most proud of as a leader in this space. He came to work with me in like 2017. I think he did 16, 17 million, and then like immediately 24 million, 56 million, and then like 80, 80, 80. So the guy is just the perfect professional, and I think he runs the business the way that we all need to today. So I'm excited to have both of you on this call with me. I don't know if you want to say anything, guys, but.
Yeah, thanks for having us. Great to be here, and hopefully we can share a couple things that at least are working in our businesses.
Totally. What I love about the 3 of us is that we all work really well together. We get along fabulously, but we are all so different. We're totally different vibe, style, structure, communication, right? So you can run your business that's true and authentic to you and be who you are, and use all of these amazing tools and resources to help you grow. So it's pretty cool. Like, I'm total hippie yogi mama bear over here. Mark is like super structured guy, like really strategic and super smart about everything he does, right? So, and Keith is brilliant and high energy and fun and dynamic, right? So all kinds of different ways of running businesses, but using similar tools to help us to grow and thrive.
That's why I love you.
Well said.
All right, y'all. So check this out. So I kind of framed this up a little bit, that this is a really interesting place that I think that we're in the mortgage space, and I wanted to dive a little bit deeper in that. And here's kind of what I mean. I was thinking about this the other day, and I was kind of thinking about myself as like a customer in this market, right? And I'm thinking like I'm a pretty successful 41-year-old. I've been around for a little bit. I own some property, but from a reference point, when you say recession, like I don't. Me personally, we're studying it all, but I don't know if I necessarily know what that means from an experience standpoint, because really in the last, 10, 15 years or so, it's just been boom, right? Outside of, a stint with COVID, which is also fresh in my mind in terms of what it did to the economy, but it's really a boom. And then we have this bust of 2009. Outside of that, as a professional working adult, like the ideal customer, you have to go back to the dot-com bubble. And that was me just getting out of high school. And so I don't, outside of what I can read, like I don't necessarily know what that means. I can't really put any kind of framework on that. And so we enter a place now where all of a sudden these crazy things are happening in the marketplace, and we're talking about a recession. And I think that creates a lot of fear, and we're seeing that. And that fear is shutting people down. And it's shutting our agent partners down. It's shutting us down as originators. And I think that we just need to get back to some of those basics. Renee is a guy that speaks a lot within the mortgage community, Renee Rodriguez with Amplify. And I think one of the things that he does the best here to kind of frame up like what that should look like in this market. Is he depicts two things. One is a lighthouse, and I think we all can picture a lighthouse. Like a lighthouse is bringing in the sailors in the storm, and it's that beam of light for you to follow. And I was on a call actually where he had a flashlight, and he put that flashlight like right in the camera, and really all you can see is that flashlight as a guiding light. And I've used that analogy a lot here, is that we have to be the lighthouse. We have to be that shining light for the people that have fear, because like everybody does right now, and to assume that they don't, I think is wrong, and that's what's kind of causing issues with this economy. And so to frame it up just once more, I think the market doesn't determine our success, the market determines our strategy. And that's what that's what we need to do. We need to change our strategy right now to alter the success that we're having. So what I wanted to do is kind of just have a conversation, and I think Dave and Alex will jump in here throughout, but what are the three things that I think loan officers need to be focusing on right now? And those three things that we're going to jump into, one is leading indicators, not lagging indicators. We're going to dive into that a little bit. The second part is retooling. John Downs, actually, you should follow him. I love that guy. He's out in DC, does a ton of business, speaks a lot. He did a video about retooling and some of the things that he's doing right now, and I think it's an amazing opportunity for us to retool. And then the third thing is mindset. Right? The mindset that we have and the habits that we have are what are really going to determine the success, because we have to own the people that win the battle of the mind in this market are the ones that are going to create a following and are going to have success. So kind of just jumping into the leading indicators. And what I mean by that is, prior to the last 6 months or so, like I could jump into my team meeting on a Monday and say, you know what, like let's go get 10 loans this week. Like that's the goal. Right? The metric this week to determine the success of our week is 10 home loans. And maybe people will argue that you can get into your database and do that right now, but I don't know if that is, at least for me, as much of a reality as it was in the past. And if I focus on that, then I'm not going to win the battle of the mind. I'm just going to be losing every single week. And so what we need to change that to is the things that will actually generate business. And I know a lot of people say this, like get back to the basics, but it's like it truly is a thing. We need to get back to the basics. And we need to find the activities that we believe move the needle forward every day. And I think if you can identify 2 to 3 things that fundamentally move your business forward every single day, and it may not feel like that, right? It's not feeling like that for me at times. I'm coming in, I'm doing the things, and I'm like, man, it didn't result in opportunity and locked transactions. But I know for sure that these 2 to 3 things move the business forward. And if I execute on those things on a weekly basis, we're going to be good. So for me, so I want you guys to jump in a little bit, Mark and Becky. But for me, it's leading my people and my partners. Right? That's the number one thing that I think that we need to do. We need to be leading our team. We need to be leading our support staff because they're as fearful as our customers are, right? And then for me personally, is I need to be nailing my social strategy. So my social media strategy, I changed it a lot this year, and I really kind of looked at the market from an investment standpoint. I've been investing in rental properties, and I kind of pulled back on that just to see what's going on. And I said, you know what, like I'm going to invest in myself. And that part that kind of moves into the retooling, but I invested heavily in the social media strategy, and I'm starting to see some results in it, which is amazing. And then for me, the third thing is just nailing my AM routine. That AM routine for me really dictates my day, and I know that if I can nail those activities in the morning before noon, that move that needle forward, I can let the rest of the day be the day. And we've been doing that, on a regular basis within our group. So I don't know if you guys want to jump in on that and kind of talk about, Mark, like, hey, for you right now in the altar into this new business, what are those 2 to 3 things that you're doing on a daily basis?
And I actually want to just kind of give a real life example of our sales call that we had I think it was last week or a couple weeks ago. So we do a sales call every Tuesday where we get all the LOs on Zoom and we kind of discuss strategies, what's working, what's not. And there was this theme there for a while where I think we were all kind of getting on there, and honestly, just we were getting caught up in the market a bit. It was like, what's going on? There's leads are down and apps are down. And I think we were all kind of just focusing on that a little bit too much. And so the last sales meeting, we kind of made a shift. We said, look, the only thing that we can control is the activities that we do moving forward. And there was something that I heard on a podcast, and I apologize, I don't know who it was from. There's a ton of good LO podcasts out there. But the gentleman said that our pipeline right now is there's two things that go in our pipeline right now, which is our past effort and the market right now, right? We can't control our past effort. What's done is done, and we can't control the market. The only thing we can control is what we do moving forward. So what we did on the sales calls, we got on for 15 minutes. We strategized about what we're going to do, and we're going to reach out to 10 to 15 realtor partners and have discussions. So we all got off the call. We made a bunch of calls, and we had 2 or 3 different topics. Like one was a 2-1 buy down, things like that, and offering to create a flyer for the agent so that we could show if they have a listing that's kind of stale, that kind of thing. And we got back on the call we called for about 45 minutes, and then we reconvened. And it was like, we were all pumped. It was like, I think Keith, what was it? We had 10 leads or something like that, 10 buyer leads just for making those calls. And that was like a group of 7 or 8 of us. And basically we're just asking the agents like, hey, are there people in the last 12 months that maybe wanted to buy a house and they were going to be down payment assistance, so they're going to be FHA, and they just had no shot, right? Is there a number? Can we reach out and call and maybe get those people requalified? And literally walked out of there with like 10 names and numbers, collectively. And I think that just what I'm focusing on is activities. And then Keith, you mentioned mindset. I think that our mindset is really important right now, especially to our realtor partners, because they're hurting as well, right? Like they've got bills to pay. And if they're not getting a check, there's high stress, high intensity. And I don't know if everybody's noticed, but the micromanaging has kind of picked up a little bit from agents because they're really worried transactions are going to fall apart. So my thing is, I don't want to call them up and go, yeah, the market's terrible and it's just brutal right now. I want to focus on the positive and look at like I kind of like this market. A buyer can actually get their offer accepted. They can get some seller concessions. We can do a 2-1 buy down. We can actually use the tools that we know how to use, where maybe 6 to 9 months ago, we couldn't use those tools. So for me, it's activities and mindset are huge. And I think that just from that one little sales call, I think we had like a little example of how positive it can be moving forward.
For sure. Yeah. Mindset has been a struggle, I think, for anybody who's in the industry right now. Like I identify who I am based on what I accomplish and my performance, right? So I am a good person if my numbers are blah, right? And when my numbers aren't, I'm like, oh dear God, like who am I? And what am I even doing waking up today, right? So you have to re-rack, and remember why you started doing this job. Like, why do I do this? I do this because I love what I do and I love my clients, and it's a gift and a blessing. And how I add value is, right, loving on my people and educating them. And so just getting back to the why, like why do we wake up every day? Why do we show up to do this when the market is different than it has been, right? Being an active participant in the process with people makes all the difference in the world. And that in turn leads to more business, right? Getting out in front of agents, teaching lunch and learns, like educating them, loving on them, showing them options, possibility, light, like Keith says, right? Like being the guide and offering solutions to some of the muck that they're running into out there. Like that's what we're here to do, right?
Yeah, I think, that's vendors, and I hate that term when they use that, but vendors look for transactions, partners look to transfer value. And that's the biggest difference. When we're on those power hour calls, which have been huge, I think it was kind of cool. I got a timer, and so I've been timing myself for 60 minutes of just focused calls. And but when we're making those calls, we need to be looking to, again, transfer value and not ask for transactions. I know there's so many lenders out there right now that are calling for leads and not necessarily trying to transfer that value. You want to jump in here?
I do. So I like to break in like at 18 minutes just because that's the time of a TED Talk. And I always think it's just nice from chapters of a book. We just went through chapter number 1 and we got a lot of great quotes. I mean, that, partners look to transfer value. I think that is super powerful. The market doesn't determine your success. Your strategy determines your success.
The market determines your strategy. That was
your market does not determine your success. It determines your strategy.
Yes.
There you go, Alex.
Sorry about that.
Anytime, Alex.
Yeah, no, it was just it was what Keith said. It wasn't. It's the market doesn't determine your success; it determines your strategy. I wrote it big, right here for myself. I was like, you know what? I'm going to be saying that a lot. That's a brilliant concept.
That is so true, because I've recently interviewed 2 loan officers who are actually up their market. They're closing more business this year than last year. One is Nicole Roth. It's in the Mortgage Coach YouTube channel. The other was Denise Donahue, literally last week. And one common thread from what Keith just said that they both said is their social media game is on. Like they are upgrading that. They're very intentional about bringing video and leadership to real estate agents, and educating them on how to make homes more affordable. And Keith, I know you're really passionate about that. I have 2 videos of yours. One where you're talking about creating affordability strategies in the market, and the other one is just how you're positioning yourself. Are you cool if I play one of those videos real quick?
For sure, man. That'd be amazing.
Which one do you think would be a better fit at this point? We can play them both throughout.
I think it's probably a position yourself right now.
Okay, so I'm going to play one of 2 videos, and this is going to be something. And Keith, after you play it, why don't you tell people how you're using it, where you're using it, what your intention was around it. So let's check it out, guys. This is how to win in today's.
It's time you expect more from your mortgage advisor. Most loan officers take a 20-hour course, pass a test, and then can officially offer mortgage loans. There is no financial literacy required to guide someone in one of the largest financial transactions of their life. Unfortunately, in my industry, the barrier is just too low. We believe it's time you, the client, begin to expect more because you absolutely deserve more. Your mortgage advisor sees everything, far more than your financial advisor sees. How dare us not offer more? We're a bit different. When you hire us, you get sound mortgage and financial strategies that will help you build wealth. We're a bit more relaxed and low-key. Don't take the t-shirt as somebody who does not have years of experience buying and selling real estate. Expect from us sound advice based on your long-term and short-term goals for the home. Don't have those goals? We'll help you define them. I hate debt, but I love mortgage, and I think it's time that you expect more from your mortgage advisor.
Boom.
Hey, I want to work with that guy.
I know a guy.
So Keith, why don't you unpack what you were doing, and then for the 2 students on the call, feel free to ask some questions, maybe share what you're doing, but unpack that a little bit, Keith.
Yeah, I really believe that right now. The barrier of entry in our industry is just absolutely too low, and it also presents an amazing opportunity. I mean, if you think about it, right, like to really become a loan officer, you got to pass a test, maybe have a decent background, maybe not. It's like $1,500, and you can go get a license and do home loans, and that's really cool. From a standpoint of like I can go be a business operator and go make legitimately a couple $100,000 a year. I mean, if you think about like I want to be a chef and I want to open up a restaurant, like the amount of debt that you're in before you actually sell a hamburger compared to what we can go do in the mortgage industry, like we can't take that lightly. And I think that our industry does a little bit. So what I'm trying to do is take a little bit of a turn in what I'm doing and go a little like countercultural to what the mortgage industry is doing. I did another video about, we're talking about seller buy downs, and I think a better strategy is 2-1 buy downs. And so, but for me, with that video, it's gonna, when you have a YouTube channel and you have a new viewer that comes to your YouTube channel, there's a video that could always be played that first time. So that's gonna be that first introduction that they have to us and our team on YouTube. It's gonna exist in the signature line of my email. So anytime someone, clicks like get to know Keith, it's gonna be there. And then my CRM has the ability to trigger a video based on certain events, and one of those is sending out an application to a customer. So I just want to do anything that we can right now to allow the customer to know that we think differently about this marketplace, because and this is Associate really hit this in the last interview. It's pretty amazing when you think about the amount of time that the borrower's left on their own to manage that debt, right? On a 30-year fixed loan, 360 monthly payments, 99% of the time they're on their own to manage that. And so for me, we want to position ourselves as the individual that is going to think differently about their finances. So that's what, I guess that's my intention with that video. From a social strategy standpoint, jumping into number 2, which is the retool. I think right now what we all can be focusing on is building the personal brand. And I have some questions that I can share, or I can share it in the PowerPoint slides that you will later, Dave. But it's just kind of some thought-provoking questions for people to think about, like who am I in the mortgage space? What is the brand that I want to build, and how do I represent myself, and how do I show up? But for me right now, we took a big pivot in retooling the social strategy, and it's working significantly right now. I think for two reasons. One, I don't think that in the industry we're limited. We'd have limited barriers based on states anymore. That's just not a thing. I think the modern mortgage advisor is licensed in multiple states. Mark, he's in California. I see it all the time. He gets a ton of business in other states, and that wouldn't be opportunity that you have. And if you didn't take the time to get licensed, social media expands that pre-existing barrier that we had before, right? Because we can reach out to people in multiple states, and if you're licensed there, you can chase that opportunity. I've really changed my strategy in the last 6 months, and it presented me an opportunity recently in Arizona with an agent that has over 200 agents on their team with an EXP. They want to send me business. I just need to get licensed in the state. So I think from a retooling standpoint, get licensed in multiple states right now. If you're at a company that allows you to do that, invest the time. It doesn't take that much time to do. And then from, again, like social media, this is for me the power of it, and I think this is why everybody needs to jump into it. Social media, Instagram, Facebook, it jumps the gap between the introduction to I know you. So I can jump into a phone conversation, a Zoom meeting, or an individual meeting with someone, and if we've interacted on social media, they can have a feeling of them already knowing me, and we can jump into what we want to accomplish much quicker than we could in the past, because they have that pre-existing idea of who you are based on who you present yourself to be on social. The second thing is, if you think about this, like, there's no other way that I can shake 300 hands in a day outside of doing that within stories. That's phenomenal. And so for me right now, really engaging with individuals that are reacting to what I'm putting out there on social media has been massive. And then the final one is, at least for me, as I relocated out to Tennessee here, the gap between, if you think about this, the gap between who is actually doing social media and in a good way, and those that aren't, is massive. So for us as an individual loan officer, it's actually a pretty easy space to jump into if you make it a pillar of your business and something you're going to dedicate a significant amount of time to. Because you've got multiple $100 million producers that have no social media presence whatsoever. And you can actually step into that space in a market and present more value potentially than somebody could that has that huge following of people from a database standpoint. So I think that's massive. Mark, did you want to jump in anything on kind of retooling what you're focused on right now and retooling your business?
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's customer experience is big as well. We were talking about this with my team today, actually, and real estate agents at the end of the day, they want the transaction to close. That's number one. But the second thing is, if their customers are going to them and saying, "Hey, Mark's team was amazing, Becky's team was amazing," I think that's how we're going to win. We had a really good example of it was a buyer's agent that was a friend of our buyer. So we didn't have a relationship with the buyer's agent, and they were a pretty big buyer's agent. I mean, they've done like 15 buy sides in the last 12 months, which is pretty big right now. And at the end of the transaction, everything went super smooth. And she called us up and said, "Hey, the buyers were over the moon. You guys sent cookies, you sent a DoorDash gift card, the communication was great." And, I was thinking, we have a system in place, right, that does these things. So it sends the cookies out, it sends a DoorDash gift card. Sometimes we don't understand how much meaning that has on the other side of things. And we actually ended up winning that buyer's agent, and we've received like a couple leads in the past week since that transaction closed, just because of the feedback they got on the customer experience. So the loan was easy, like we got that done. But I think if you take that experience to the next level, that's the feedback that the agents are going to get. And I think that's really what's going to keep those lasting relationships. And it's not just going to end up being transactional. So we've been focusing on that. And then just, Keith, I know you're going to touch on this, but when things are slow, I think it's a good opportunity to look at your business and look at what you can implement, what you can change. And I think that the last couple of years for most of us, it was like we were just swimming in loans and we couldn't really even think straight in terms of what we want to change in our business. So I'm not excited the business is down, but I do get excited thinking, hey, I'm going to go to work and there's some things I want to work on today so that when things get busier, we're just going to just be even better than what we were the past couple of years when it was crazy busy.
Totally. I agree with that. Yeah. For my end, proactive communication has been huge, and it's been a huge key to my success, right? Realtors know exactly what's going on with the loan at all times when they work with me and my team. And that just in and of itself has earned me business, right? I've had agents come to me and be like, I've never worked with anybody that does things how you do things before. Are you accepting new agents? Like, are you open to helping some of my buyers? I mean, heck yeah, we are, right? So doing a good job, proactive communication, keeping everybody in the loop at all times, and performing, right? If we can get, when we get, which is often, closing docs to the table well before our close of escrow date, people are like, holy cow, how'd you do that, right? I want some of that. How often do you do this? Is this normal? Like, heck yeah, it is, right? So performance, loving on everybody, caring for everybody, keeping everybody informed, keeping them educated and in the loop throughout the whole entire process, so they don't have to wonder or worry, or to Mark's point, like micromanage the process and be super scared and worried about their paycheck, right? So that for me has opened up opportunities and doors to get to connect with more people who want their business done in the way that me and my team thankfully run our business, right?
Agreed.
I just want to add as well, and I'm really not just saying this because Dave invited us on this call, but a couple years ago, and I know we're going to get into some TCAs, but a couple years ago, Keith always brings stuff to us. One of the things that makes him a great leader, he'll say, hey, you got to try this product, try that product. And personally, I've always been, like he'll tell me something and like 4 months later, I'll check it out. I'm a little bit slow to the game with that. But when he recommended Mortgage Coach and we started implementing it, honestly, I was completely blown away at the feedback we were getting from the clients and the agents. And I was, a lot of times we copy the agent on the video and the TCA and all that. And they're just, it's to me, I feel like it's simple stuff, but I just, like Becky just said, people don't do this stuff in the market. I mean, what we're talking about right now is like the top 5%, of the mortgage industry. So if you do this, I think it separates you, and it makes things way easier to grow your business.
I agree, and that comes to, in systems and tools. Right now every loan officer needs to look at, what technology am I using, and how is that technology benefiting my business? If it's not benefiting your business, like, you have to get rid of it. You've got to cut it out. And we could make excuses in the years past, right? Of things that we were using, like, oh, maybe it does, maybe it doesn't, and I've got the income coming in to make that excuse. But right now, every single technology that you use needs to elevate what you're doing and who you are. Those technologies that we're looking at, Sales Boomerang is, here comes Dave. So Sales Boomerang is amazing. I don't think that there is a better technology in the industry for keeping you in front of your customers on a consistent basis. With this shift in the market, the thing that is constant about real estate is that it's a life event business, right? It always has been, and it always will be. People are still going to have life events, and when they have life events, real estate transacts. And so to have a system, a technology that keeps you in front of your customers when that real estate transaction is about to occur is massive. And all the major banks use that, so the individual loan officer can access that technology through Sales Boomerang. Mortgage Coach is an amazing, and I feel like I'm doing an advertisement right now, but it's a thing, right? Mortgage Coach, for me, year to date, this will be great for sales managers. I'm at 6 basis points in subsidy year to date in what is probably one of the toughest markets we've been in outside of maybe 2019 from a price standpoint. And it's because in the absence of value, price exists. And so what Mortgage Coach allows you to do is immediately jump to differentiation with your customer, and allows you to guide a value-based conversation that is really hard to do without those visuals. HomeBot is the third tool that we use. My open rate on my HomeBot emails is amazing. I think HomeBot is one of the best tools that you can use to keep yourself in front of your customers on a regular basis and provide them that value that they're looking for, that information that they're looking for that they just don't get. The reason Zillow is winning It's because Zillow, whether it's right or wrong, Zillow is providing the information to the customer that they want. And that is, what is or how is my largest asset performing? And as a customer, the best thing you get is maybe a list of comparable sales. So HomeBot fills that space. We have an 80% open rate and like a 52% click-through rate on my HomeBot emails. And you can partner with real estate agents. So right now, and Dave, I'm gonna let you jump in here, but like, what technology are you using? And is it lifting your business in a significant way? If it's not, look at other technologies and invest.
So Keith, I mean, what you said is so perfect because it not only applies to us as mortgage professionals, but it applies to real estate agents. And, I love what you said. Real estate business is a life event business. In the absence of value, price exists. And I believe that whether you're in mortgage or you're in real estate, we're in this together. And we need to bring creative finance strategies to help solve the affordability crisis in America. We need to use technology. I like how you're doing it in threes. I'm going to show a couple slides just because I want to get your take on this, Keith. One of the things that we try to do at Mortgage Coach and Sales Boomerang, it's like, how can you turn not only your data into dollars, but how can we take a realtor's data and turn it into dollars so they literally have this predictable revenue stream? And so, I mean, I think the first thing we all need to recognize as an industry, whether you're an agent and you're supporting agent or you're a loan officer, that a consumer represents a lot of, mortgages, and they represent a lot of purchase opportunities. Those stars are how often the average consumer buys a home. So there's a lot. And then you got to look at the database you have. So if you're watching this right now, and a lot of you are mortgage coaches, we promoted this to both the Mortgage Coach and Sales Boomerang database, but we noticed that a lot of people who signed up, you're a mortgage coach, you're an advisor. But likely your database looks like this, and I guarantee your realtor's database looks like this. But the reality, Rocket and Zillow's database looks like this. They're getting alerts. Now it's an important distinction that Sales Boomerang is more than an alert platform. It's a borrower intelligence platform that's capturing signals. So there's all these signals happening in your database, and it could be a life event, like someone just had a new baby, someone got a new job. Those are life events, and then it could be things like FICO score went up 50 basis points, or they hit a certain milestone of equity that makes them eligible to move up or do a cash out refi. And then there's strategies. And so this is a really good example, and I would push every loan officer watching this, that like your cash out alert, each of those signals is a signal. Together they make an insight. And then when you deliver, like we automate, turning signals into insights, and then turning insights into strategies, which is the Mortgage Coach presentation. So all three of you guys are doing this, right? You're using Mortgage Coach, you're delivering strategies to consumers.
Yes.
Absolutely.
What are the most common strategies in this market? What are the most, I know it's not rate and term refis. Is it 2-1 buy downs? Is it PMI analysis? What are some of the most common?
I'll jump in real quick and then Mark and Becky go. Like, I think, not only is it the strategies, the way that you deliver that strategy. I mean, these are complicated numbers, and stress exists when finances are spoken on, right? And they're big. These are big numbers. These are sometimes nasty numbers. They're big payments, and when you're trying to show a client that, gosh, it makes more sense to get a $10,000 seller credit than chase a $50,000 price reduction. Like, how do you possibly do that without a tool that breaks it down for you? I mean, I guess you probably could. You could, if you were an Excel spreadsheet whiz, you could put something together. But gosh, man, you can do this in seconds. And so for us, I think it at least for me right now, to generate new business opportunity, it's talking with real estate agents specifically about the benefit of a 2-1 buy down versus a permanent rate buy down. I'm a big fan of the 2-1 buy down right now over permanent rate buy down. And we're actually doing a lot of them in our market because, like, I believe we're going to see lower interest rates in the future. If you look at, and I have some graphs, like if you look at historical interest rates versus recessions, like it's not just some of the time. It's every time we hit a recession, interest rates drop. And so we're in a place where we'll most likely see lower interest rates in the near term, right? Maybe not this year, but later next year. And if that's going to happen, I actually don't believe a permanent rate buy down strategy is the right strategy, because the money that was used to buy that rate down is lost. Whereas in a 2-1 buy down, a lot of people don't know this, but in a 2-1 buy down, the money that is used to buy the interest rate down is actually held in kind of a reserve account with the lender. And at the time that a refinance occurs, those funds become, those unused funds become a principal reduction. So the money's not lost. So how do you actually show that to a client or explain that to a realtor? You have to have a visual to be able to do that and walk them through it. And so for me personally, that's that, right? That the new business opportunity is trying to talk about strategies that win business for our customers and for our agents, arming them with information. Like the more arrows that you have in the quiver right now is how you're going to win the business, and then arming our agents with those arrows. Again, providing value and not asking for transactions is how we get more business.
So one thing I want to do before we run out of time, and we just finished chapter 2. We have one more chapter left, another 20 minutes left in the call. So that 2 reminders, anyone watching this, if there's a question you want to make sure it gets integrated, put it in chat. Alex and I are monitoring that. I do want to make sure at some point one of you walks through a total cost analysis. And then Keith, I still have that 2-1 buy down video that you created. Do you have a 2-1 buy down TCA that you can show by any chance?
I do have a 2-1 buy down TCA that I can show. And you can show that if you want to, for sure. I think people are also asking here about the 2-1 buy down. I don't know if we're going to get into the actual tactical nature of it.
Two things, guys. I'm going to play that video so you can see how is Keith going one-to-many on social media. And then we're going to have Keith go, how does he go one-on-one? And then I'm going to tie that up with also some other examples of just how other loan officers are taking this one strategy. How's that sound, guys?
And I'm going to sprinkle in a little bit of strategy and concepting on if you're using Mortgage Coach, what is like the superpower that's at your disposal right now. So all of that's coming up.
All right, guys, check it out. Here's Keith Collins on social media, delivering a lesson to both realtors and buyers.
The industry is blowing it right now. The market has shifted and the discussion has changed to how do we make these homes more affordable to buyers who are less interested now than they were before. The strategy is seller credits and permanent rate buydowns. This is the problem. We have entered a recession, and historically when we enter a recession, 6 to 12 months later, interest rates drop, and they typically drop significantly. In that time, these clients will refinance. All the funds that we've used and we've advised them to use to permanently buy down the interest rate are going to be burned because they're going to do a refinance. We need to be doing this instead. The 2-1 buy down is the strategy that saves our buyers the most amount of money. It's going to get them the lowest payment up front, and when rates drop in the future, this is the benefit. All of the funds used to buy down the interest rate in the 2-1 buy down are actually held in escrow, and those funds at refinance are used as a principal reduction, so they never lose the money. The 2-1 buy down is the strategy that we need to be using in this market to benefit our buyers the most now and in the future when they refinance. If you have any questions about seller credits, permanent rate buy downs, and 2-1 buy downs, I would love to help.
Fantastic leadership, Keith. And remember, guys, you need to be able to educate real estate agents. And I can tell you right now, the best loan officers in America, they're doing this. They're creating social media content. They're using the total cost analysis. In a recent interview I did with Nicole Ruth, not only is she doing a video like that, on social media, she's doing one using the Mortgage Coach video. So Keith, anything you want to say about that? And then why don't you share a TCA and kind of go through that for us?
Yeah, man, that was awesome. I appreciate that. I think another thing, just to kind of compound on this, I was on a call recently with Josh Meadow and a few other people in coaching, and he had a different spin on how we're doing this, and I liked it because there are a lot of loan officers talking about seller buy down strategies, and I think agents can say like, oh, I already heard about that, right? But they don't really know what it is, because when you dive into this, most often the agent's like, oh, I didn't really realize how powerful this was. That's usually what you're getting from an agent. We're talking about the 2-1 buy down or the permanent rate buy down. And what he talked about, and I thought this was awesome, is using different verbiage to generate a different response. And so instead of calling it, 2-1 buy down or a permanent seller buy down strategy, your price reduction mitigation strategy. And I thought that was massive. Like, do you presently have a price mitigation reduction strategy in your business, or you've heard about the seller buy down. So then, are you using the buyer purchasing power accelerator? Right. Those are statements that are going to make them stop and think a little bit differently about what you're doing and using. And I think that's really important. You talk about that a lot, Dave, when we're talking about the columns in Mortgage Coach, rather than saying like option one, like this is strategy one, right? The words that we use generate a different response and can stop people and make them think differently about what you're trying to explain to them. Do you want to jump in there, Dave?
I just wanted to say the video I shared with Denise, Josh was part 2 of that. So it was Dan Keller and I interviewing Denise on just, hey, how are you up in this market? And then we flipped the script and did Josh on how are you presenting to realtors? And I think that's where you got some of those words and some of those ideas. So yeah, so we got 15 minutes left. Let's rock out a TCA lesson and see where this goes. And guys, keep your questions coming below.
Okay, first I just want to show the PowerPoint. I have a bunch of slides, and I highly encourage everybody to have some kind of a similar slide deck. Dave's got his slide deck that I think he shared. There's a lot of really, like if you're in California, California is the most severe housing deficit in the nation. Like, just have this ammunition at hand to be able to use when a borrower brings up something that you're trying to change something that they previously believed to be true. And often the only way to do that is framing data appropriately so that they can look at what you're trying to tell them differently. Because often it's a trusted advisor in their life, like a parent, right? And so, the one thing that, these different images help me do that. But one of the big ones here is these graphs are awesome with the Fred, but if you look at just going back to like 1975, I mean, it's historical. You hit a recession, interest rates stop. Recession, rates drop. Recession, big rate drop. Recession, rate drop. Recession, like it just happens. So if we're going to hit a recession, which I think we all can agree that we're in, rates drop in the future. So looking at some of these strategies here, like a 2-1 buy down or a permanent rate buy down, could be massive. And so this is what we put together to try to show the customers, I think, the benefit of a conventional rate loan, right? This is just a traditional conventional loan that we have here, a conventional loan with a $10,000 seller credit versus a $45,000 price reduction, right? And what I'm trying to show is, if you look at from a payment standpoint, asking for a $10,000 seller credit has the same net effect to a buyer from a payment standpoint than a $45,000 price reduction. So it's a price mitigation reduction strategy, right? Or it's a buyer purchasing strategy. But what I love is the 2-1 buy down, because the 2-1 buy down gets maximum amount of impact in the shortest period of time for a buyer. We were doing a loan for a buyer the other day, and I mean, even just looking at this, a $500,000 purchase with a $400,000 loan, implementing this strategy gets them a payment that is $500 lower per month. Like that's massive right now. And so, telling, hey, Mr. and Mrs. Agent, I have a strategy that right now can get a buyer a payment that's $500 lower than what they're going to get from a traditional interest rate. Is that something you might be interested in? Of course they are. It's massive. And the cool thing with that 2-1 buy down, again, we have to go with the idea that history is going to repeat itself. But if it does, the 2-1 buy down, I think, is the best strategy, because it gets them the lowest possible payment right now and then positions them to refinance in the future at a much lower interest rate.
Hey, Keith, would you mind sharing a link to that in chat? I also want to make sure, if you guys are watching this in the Mortgage Coach YouTube channel, all the links will be below this in comments. So we'll get that. And I also want to remind folks, our job is to provide clarity. Our job is to provide education, transparency, and options. And when we do that, and we do it well, not only do we win the deal, but we delivered a little bit of financial literacy to that consumer. We taught them about money at a deeper level. One of my dreams is that someday every single first-time home buyer is going to get more than pre-qualified. They're going to get a rent versus own analysis so they can get a little financial literacy about the power of home ownership And my dream is that someday everybody's going to get a total cost analysis so they can learn how to build wealth with real estate. They can learn how to pay off their debt. Alex, anything you want to say or comment on?
Yeah, I have a few things. I mean, look, this market, and that's why we're having this conversation right now. If you're a mortgage coach user, this should be a time to celebrate. Okay, this should be a time to celebrate. All right, you're celebrating because you have, thank you. You have the best way to represent the best options to your customers. I love what Keith said earlier. Lenders want loans, partners want to add value. You have the resource, the tool that helps you add value. If you're a mortgage coach user and you're not getting the borrower intelligence, that is the fuel you're missing in your vehicle right now, okay? Because that intelligence gives you the reason to add value. Because right now, what you often do, if you have nothing, if you've called everyone by noon, which by the way, incredible strategy,
Hey, real quick, Alex, while you're talking, I want you guys just to see that within every database, and part of our process when you meet with us is that you show us your data and we'll show you how many alerts you're missing, and so it really just becomes a number of how many alerts would you be getting. Remember, it's a life events business. How many of those life events, how many of those cash out refis, how many of those move up analysis are you gonna get? And then what are you gonna convert? Is it 5% of them you're gonna convert? 10% of you are gonna convert? People like Keith do more. So it's really about having both. Anyway, I just wanted to show that on the screen real quick.
Sure. And actually, I'll drive that message home a little further. You're talking about, here's an example of someone whose database we took and we said, hey, did you know that in your database, this was a large database, it's a big lender. Did you know that inside your database, you had 4,000 relevant mortgage loan events that could have occurred that you completely missed out on? So if you're a mortgage coach user, this is gold for you. This should be like, oh my gosh, like how do I get this in my system now? Because when you have no one else to talk to, when you've done all of your calls to your partners, to your database, and now you're just reaching, who and what should I, when you start to get to that point, you really need to go, okay, how can I get strategic? And when you have a system that tells you, hey, Mr. and Mrs. Loan Officer, you have someone in your database that's qualified for a cash out with you today. They have $90,000 in credit card debt. They have 800 FICO score. All of these things, they meet your perfect criteria. Now you have a presentation, and now you have a reason to contact somebody with instant value. You're not calling and saying, hey, how are you? What's going on? How's life? Just checking in. Oh, that's happening. Let me show you what's going on. Nope. You're actually coming to the table with value upfront, instantly saying, this is what's available to you. How does that sound to you? How does that feel? Does that fit in with your goals? Instead of coming in and trying to figure out what's going on in their life, you're giving them value up front. So my point is this, your database is extremely active, and everyone, I know there's a lot of people on here that are using Mortgage Coach. Everyone that's using Mortgage Coach that's not using Sales Boomerang right now is the time. Dave did an interview, and I don't remember exactly who it was with, but I believe it was with, Dave, just correct me if I'm wrong on this, maybe it was Rocket, that said, these are the times, the down markets are the times that we excel, we peak, we take advantage of every opportunity that everyone else isn't taking advantage of or that's running away. And he said, I think something like historically, if you look at our peaks, they've always come from a down market, okay? Because they've put everything into the success of their business, knowing that other people are just a little scared to do certain things. And so you're armed with the best tools, add intelligence, and get to it, right? Get to numbers where you can start saying, hey, all right, maybe I'm not going to be 4, 5, 6, 7, 8% up this year, like some people are, but I'm not going to be where the market is. Okay. I'm not going to let the market determine my success. I'm going to let it determine my strategy. And now this is part of my strategy.
So Keith, anything you want to make sure we get included before we run out of time here?
I mean, there's a lot of questions here about the slides, Dave. I'll get you the slides, all the slides that I use. There's multiple questions that people are asking, like, do you have this or do you have that? Yes, I absolutely do. It's in there. Anytime a client asks a question and I don't have something, I go find it. I mean, Google is your friend, and that data is out there. And to be able to have that at your fingertips, I think is massive. So I'll share all those slides. I think, right now, the big thing is investing in yourself, right? In your systems, your process, your personal brand, and taking that time to do that, so that when this market shifts, you're ready to run. And then I think the last one is just mindset, guys. Like, it's really tough right now. We all know that. The top people are struggling, and a lot of people are going to get out of the business. And so the way that we show up every day with our team, and when I say our team, even the ones that work for us, our staff, but even our agent partners, the way that you show up, I truly believe, is dictated based on how you start your morning. I mean, it's so important right now, just the little things that we're doing to make sure that we win the battle of the mind. We have a great routine in the mornings, and you just got to watch that internal thought. Like, I hear Becky, she's an amazing producer. She has so much talent and so much energy and so much to bring to her customers, but we all get beat up, and sometimes we wrap up our identity in the idea that we closed $110 million last year and we're not doing it this year, and we think we suck. Like, it's not a thing. You have to win the battle of the mind, and if you do that, people will follow you. I get agents that call me like, Keith, I'm about to jump into a listing appointment. I just, like, pump me up. Like, that's who we need to be for our agent partners, and they will stay with you forever and provide you the opportunity. Don't be the person that's calling and asking for a lead. Be the person that's coming in and providing value and lifting them.
Bring in a lead, guys. And if you have borrower intelligence, you will have more leads to bring to your realtors. Keith, we've had a few questions asking for a link to your total cost analysis. Or you're going to be able to share that with us afterwards?
I put it in there actually already.
You did? I'll go find it.
I did. I put it in there already, but I can absolutely share it again, and I'll get that. So Dave, I'll get you the link, which you actually already have, and then I'll get you the link for the slides as well.
Okay. I see a link to the how-to video. I just don't see a link to the actual TCA.
Doing it right now.
Okay. There it is. I see it now. And guys, and Keith, I think we don't have time to show another one, but I think there's another TCA that you really like in this market. In the prep, you forwarded it to me yesterday. Could you just describe that?
That was Mark's. Mark, do you want to talk about your locking strategy? I think that was Mark's TCA, and Mark, I think, has a really good strategy.
We have time for a closing thought. Why don't you share your lock-in strategy? That sounds very interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, pulling it up right now. So when I started using Mortgage Coach, before I started using Mortgage Coach, I remember I would have these kind of awkward conversations with borrowers when it was the time to lock the interest rate, right? Like, you have this great relationship, they're pre-approved, everyone's excited. You get a contract in, and then it's like, hey, we got to talk about the interest rate. And it was awkward for me. It was awkward for them. It felt super salesy. And so I've totally changed that with using Mortgage Coach. So two things we do. One is when we pre-approve a customer, we are setting a TCA out, right? These are, and I layer it. I actually use a Loom video. I know that Mortgage Coach has video that you can embed, but I like to use Loom because I can share other tools such as Optimal Blue, what current interest rates are, MBS, and just give some commentary, add some value as to this is what's happening with interest rates. This is where we're at. This is where I think we're going to go. And this TCA, so it's just a really basic TCA. This is from a client that got into contract this week, a couple of days ago. And basically what I believe is the customers need options, right? So in this particular case, it wasn't a 2-1 buy down or anything fancy like that. It was just kind of cookie cutter 30-year fixed. But what I do most of the time is, if the rate is similar to what we quoted out a couple weeks ago or whatever it was, in many cases, we will just lock the rate proactively, right? And especially when we're getting alerts from MBS and Barry telling us, hey, you need to lock, right? So we're locking the rate. And then I'm doing a video, with everything is loaded up here with the actual title and escrow fees and all that. And I'm letting the customer know that hey, we have you locked at this 5.5% rate, but there's some other choices that you potentially could have. And once we lock one rate, we're locking the entire rate sheet. And I give them my opinion on, why you may want to take the 5.99 rate. And we talk about recessions and interest rates going down and things like that. And I let them know, hey, if you're of the believer that rates are just going to keep going up, then you might want to consider one of the lower rates, which is going to have more cost to it, but you're going to save a little bit more over time. And honestly, like 90% of the time, we send this out via email. There's a link for my video, and there's a link for the TCA. And 9 out of 10 times, the customer goes, hey, this is great. Let's just stick with option 3, right? Every now and then they'll say, actually, we want to go with the 5.99 rate and come in less out of pocket. And sometimes they'll want to buy the rate down. But I get very little pushback on interest rates ever since I started this. So I think when I was having those conversations before, it was kind of like they felt like I was trying to sell them something. And so that prompted them to go out there and go get 2, 3, 4 quotes. And it started that whole game of rate shopping. But I think that just to wrap this up, the other thing too is point out use this Optimal Blue site. It's a huge tool for me. 35% of mortgage transactions use Optimal Blue. It's a lot of data. And if you show them, hey, the average rate right now is 5.8%. We have you locked at 5.5%. They know they're getting a fair deal. And I think from a consumer's perspective, they just want to know they're getting a fair deal. And once they know that, it typically will cease the rate shopping.
Yeah, this is something here that you can show with a client, but I think, a couple of things here. One, I've had people say, well, you're locking ahead of the borrower committing. Well, Mark's lock fallout is some of the lowest that I have in the region that I run. So this is not a strategy that, that is going to hurt lock fallout. I think what it actually is doing, and I loved when I heard about him doing it, is it's removing the well, what rate do you want conversation? Like, here's what I think is best. I've already locked this in. But if you think something else is best, we can have that discussion and fix it. But the most important thing that we need to do is move forward so that we can get the appraisal ordered and get the transaction moving forward. And it's kind of eliminating that, because what'll happen with me is, we get on and we have to have a conversation about, well, is it this rate? Is it that rate? What should we do? And we're waiting to lock and waiting to order the appraisal and send the disclosures, whereas he's doing it right away and he's not having fallout.
Love it. Hey, let's close out with a little fireside chat. Mark, if you could stop sharing your screen. I put a link to Mark's total cost analysis, his rate lock TCA in chat, and in YouTube it will be there. Also, Amber Kovark at a Scriptapalooza a couple of years ago did an incredible how she locks interest rates, and it was a great script. So great resource. And that does remind me, guys, when you're helping families in today's market, you need to give them options, because big banks are quoting at 2 points. Online lenders are quoting at 2 points. So showing everything from 0 points to 2 points at the point of sale, you got to give options. So this has been an incredible masterclass. Alex, any closing thoughts you have before we give everybody just a minute to close out?
Yeah, guys, look, data is the new dollar, right? Turn your database into a data bank, as we talk about. You heard Keith's 3 tools: Sales Boomerang, Mortgage Coach, HomeBot, all very powerful in all markets, very important in this market. But eliminate your blind spots, guys. You have access to borrower intelligence that lets you see your entire database, your entire customer, entire data bank, and who is active, where to look, and where the opportunity lies. Do not be blind, and then incorporate these strategies that Keith just shared.
Becky, any closing thoughts before we wrap it?
Remember your value, right? Use these tools, obviously, but remember, it differentiates you. It makes you special. It makes you different. It makes you an integral part of your clients and your real estate partners' process, start to finish, every time.
Love it. Mark, any closing thoughts?
I would just say that to focus on your activities. We're going to get through this rough market. If you look at the mortgage industry, this happens all the time. So work hard and set yourself up for when things turn, and they will turn.
What you just said reminded me of my interview with Shop Benosian, who's still trending to be the #1 loan officer in America. And the quote I took from him is, I don't focus on the interest rate market or interest rate economy, the inventory economy. I focus on the activity economy. So great advice. And Keith, any last words before we close out today's masterclass?
I think we need to all operate with the idea that we're corporate athletes. Right? Every athlete's got a coach, and every athlete focuses on their skill. And this is a skill-based market that we're in right now. And if you're not focusing on your skills and then enhancing what you're doing and the presentation that you're putting together for your customers, you're going to lose. Take the time to invest in yourself, your process, your skills, and the value that you're intentionally bringing to your partners, and you'll win.
Boom, I love that. I'm going to change the corporate athlete to business athletes.
Okay.
Guys, we're business athletes. Let's train, let's get better, pick the right strategies, make sure you have a borrower intelligence platform. And thanks for everybody's time. We appreciate you tuning in, and for the teachers.
Thank you all so much.
Take care, y'all.